Hello, dear eaters. Welcome back to Food and Mood Talks. Today we are here with registered dietitian Gabrielle, and we're going to be having a really interesting conversation around how to stay centered in triggering eating situations. And that is an amazing practice for us to start finding our own authentic voice. And this is why I believe that eating challenges or just our relationship with food is such a light into ourselves because things can get messy. So it's how to stay in the eye of the storm. I'm really excited to share this conversation with all of you. So grab your candle, grab your whatever you're enjoying tonight, and sit with us to chat about this amazing topic. Hi, Gabrielle. Welcome.
Hi, Sarah. So excited, of course, as always, to be here, and especially about this topic. I think that there's so many moving pieces to it. And as humans, we naturally try to be perfectionists. And so we put so much pressure on ourselves to feel our best mentally, physically, emotionally. And sometimes that causes so much pressure on ourselves that then when the weekends come, or we're in it, we go out with our girlfriends, or we go to a family dinner, or we go on vacation, it almost feels like we unravel and we lose control because we put so much pressure on ourselves throughout the weeks. I see this time and time again with clients where they come to me, maybe we meet on a Monday, and they feel so defeated. Oh, I just had such a bad weekend. And I say, why did you have a bad weekend? Oh, I went out so many times with my friends and I just was totally out of control. And I just felt so horrible the next day. I couldn't move the next day because I just felt so horrible. I was totally mindless the entire day. How do I find balance? And there's such a fine line of finding balance and like staying, fueling your body in good ways, and finding balance throughout the week and the weekends, but then also like not putting so much pressure on yourself to follow a plan, or be a perfectionist over the weekends or even during the week. And so I want to have this conversation with you, Sarah, to help people better understand how can they relax a little bit more in these situations, and feel empowered and aligned with their true self. Doesn't matter what day of the week it is, doesn't matter if it's vacation, if it's holiday, with they're with friends, family, or alone, how to really connect to their true self in the moment.
So I'd say, and we're gonna look into this more, but it's like really a mindset thing to understand how we're approaching these issues. Because when we can understand how we're approaching these issues, what our intention is, then things change, how we're approaching life.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd say that one of the most important things is to add luxury into moments in your day or moments in your week, like do it yourself luxury, DIY luxury, it's like you bring your candle, you put a nice mat, so you make something that makes you savor like what you expect to have when you travel, right? So bringing whatever we want to feel when we do something to this moment, and it could be just little pockets of our week. And so like decreasing the pressure of what weekends are going to represent. And so I think it's also kind of detaching the idea of I get to have fun and do whatever I want in these situations. It's like you get to have fun and do whatever you want in any situation. You pick the ones that you want to do that. So not giving that up to somebody else, right? So like kind of taking the reins of that and be like, yeah, I'm gonna start enjoying the way that I want to eat, or the way that I want to dance, or the way that I want, but like having these moments to really make it more homogeneous, right? It's not
Yes.
just when we travel or
It's
just
not
when I go
all or
on.
nothing. Yes.
Exactly.
So I think that's huge. And this is three parts to this, right? So it's like how we're doing, what we're doing, how we're feeling outside of these triggering situations, how we feel in the actual triggering situation, and then how do we digest and reflect on this situation. And what you were just saying right there, the mindset, but also like what you're actually doing physically outside of these situations is so important. And this is something I talk a lot about with clients, is when we restrict all week, and we do things just to follow a diet or follow a plan to lose weight and feel healthier, you're not doing things that you truly want or desire or bring you joy. You're doing things to follow some sort of strict plan, not aligned to your true self. So then, yeah, when the weekends or the vacation or the holiday comes, it takes over and you just almost like black out, go on autopilot and totally lose control, because it's almost like your only day of the week or month or whatever to like enjoy yourself. And so that mindset shift of, you need to bring joy and happiness and deliciousness into all little moments of your life, on a Monday, on a Friday, on a Sunday, doesn't matter what day of week it is, because when you find that, like you said, like that balance of not dumping it all into just like the weekend or the vacation or the holiday to have a good time, then you're not going to feel so out of control in those situations.
Yeah, and one thing I just like to add here is like what I've been experiencing for a few days is like having an evening routine.
Mhm.
And many times it's like I'll have it when I feel like having it. But the whole point is that by not having it, I only wait until I'm burnt out to need something like that.
Mhm.
But then that's feeding into the burnout. So
Mhm.
one thing that's really important is discipline in the sense of showing up for ourselves just the way that I would show up for my cat, you know, like just this showing up, whether it's 10 minutes an evening, but having that practice, because then it's absorbing all of that stress instead of
Mhm.
it accumulating. So
Mhm.
that's why I think that it's very important to just kind of weave little things in.
And that way, that prevents you from letting the craziness of life take over and put you on autopilot 24/7 of
Mhm.
like work, eat, sleep, work, eat, sleep. And then the weekend comes and you're like, oh my gosh, what can I do for fun and joy? And then you
Right.
feel like
Yeah.
crazy on the weekends. It's like snap out of that autopilot during the week and tap into yourself. What can I do this morning that's going to like make me feel happy and fun and joyful? And maybe that's do a little gratitude journaling. Maybe that's eat a delicious biscuit with strawberry jam. Maybe that's get some sunlight on your face before you have to go sit inside and work all day. You
Right.
know, and
Yeah.
it's finding that joy and that happiness throughout your weeks and your routine days so that you can feel more empowered.
And I also want to say something to those who don't have like a 9 to 5 job, right? And who are just like, I get to determine my own schedule. And that could be very scary as well, because if you're used to working a lot, then it's like, how do I define my own schedule? I need consistency and all of this. So it's like one thing that maybe the more important question is, how many hours do I want to work? Am I okay? Maybe I just want to work 4 hours a day, and that's perfectly fine. And I'm deciding that that's the way that I want to do it and
Yes.
not feel threatened by what people are going to say. That's a very important thing, I think, to also reflect on.
Absolutely, because I definitely struggle with that myself. Is sometimes I have lighter work days and I feel guilty for that, and the
Mm.
pressure of like needing to be glued to some sort of job or computer screen for 8 hours a day. It feels like that's just breaking out of the norm. I think is a huge part of becoming empowered and healthy, is not doing what society tells us we should be doing.
Totally.
And I think alongside with the mindset work is like the more somatic work and the vagus nerve work that we've talked about briefly in previous episodes too, and how important that is to regulate our nervous system, really strengthen the mind body connection so that when you're in these situations where maybe you're somebody who is triggered a little bit more by social anxiety, or family triggers come up when you go home for a holiday, or you're feeling a bit like unregulated and self-conscious in a social situation, all of these are signs that your vagus nerve and your mind body connection and your central nervous system need some balancing and need some regulating. And that could be through, it can look different for all different people and depending on what you enjoy most, but that could be yoga, that could be doing some meditation, that could be dancing, that can be singing, that can be drawing, art therapy, you know, that can be just sitting and connecting with yourself a little bit more. So doing that vagus nerve work, and maybe that's just as simple as like getting better sleep, or you know, exercising, whatever it is for you, whatever feels good to your soul, can be so therapeutic for your whole life, but then it's also going to make you feel more calm in the moment in these situations.
Yeah, and also one thing that I would add is so yeah, I'm just gonna bring it in. So the element earth, from Chinese philosophy, it's like one of the 5 elements, and that one is connected to our spleen and to our stomach. So by nourishing ourselves, and the earth element likes orange foods, it likes root vegetables, very grounding. And when we get a lot of anxiety, it's usually also because our earth element is imbalanced. And the earth element is about consistency, and it's about regular attention to ourselves. So
Mhm.
that's really important to bring in, because I'm thinking also one thing that somatically could be so beneficial is having foods every day that nourish us, because I feel that many times we forget why we eat. At least I do. It's
Mhm.
like I have so many reasons why I shouldn't eat, and then it's like
Mhm.
you have a body that you need to feed. When you don't feed it, you start getting really anxious. So kind of making, maybe it could just be one meal that is focused on nourishment for the body,
Mhm. Mhm.
so when we can feed our spleen, we can feed our stomach, we could feed our solar plexus, which is really like the nurturing part of ourselves, like our confidence. So knowing that, it's like like it's a consistent thing.
And Sarah, how does someone figure this out? Is this work that you would do with somebody? Is the symbols?
Yeah, so basically, it's like a huge philosophy. I'm a big fan of Chinese philosophy, and especially the Chinese traditional Chinese medicine. So with my clients, I don't have a formal practice in this, but I always bring it up because it's like you can find ways of eating that feel good, and it's like each of these elements is connected to a different emotion and to a different flavor. So it really gives us a lot of insight into kind of these patterns, and what would make us, like, what is our spectrum that makes us feel good, like our joy spectrum, right? How can all of these elements work together instead of kind of eat off of one another, because that can happen when they're imbalanced.
What's going to give you or allow you to vibrate higher with foods, but then also we were just saying with our environment, with our routines. When we work on and focus on vibrating higher, again, through food, through our environments, through our people, through our hobbies, through our routines, then you're going to feel balanced, more balanced throughout your whole weeks and vacations and triggering situations.
Exactly.
Okay, I want to give two examples just because this comes up a lot with people. And Sarah, I want to hear your perspective coming from, because we've touched on it in previous episodes, of the IFS perspective and the Enneagram perspective of who's eating at the dinner table. And when we're in these situations, like maybe what are some certain thought patterns or parts of us that are coming up that we can notice without judgment, just notice in the moment. So now we're talking in the moment. So let me give like two examples. Like I quickly touched them on the going home for a holiday with your family, and maybe things coming up then making you feel super stressed or emotional, and kind of mindlessly eating throughout the holiday weekend because you're being triggered by family stuff. And then you have like the friend situation where you just had your routine week, you just stuck with your routine all week, and now we're going out in the city with our friends and you feel kind of impulsive. What can be coming up on an IFS perspective and an Enneagram perspective that could be taking over in these situations?
Yeah, I'd say because these situations are big, they, first of all, it's realizing that they're very big because they trigger parts of us, especially like family, trigger parts of us that are very young and that are usually with a lot of burdens. So it's just about, kind of the prep work, the mindset of, okay, I'm going to see my family. What is my priority here? Uh, Maybe to get along with them, it could be like I want them to be proud of me, or so it's just about really understanding what's happening, and also by having a background in kind of like the enneagram or like the core motivations, it's like seeing, is this coming out from like a neurotic place, like a I need this or else, like if I'm not seen as like the star child, who am I? So it's like these narratives that we have around our families, and so kind of just going into the situation feeling empowered that we're going to do what makes us feel good, right? Because we're mothering ourselves. This is a place where we need to take care of ourselves, and eat the way we want also assumes a responsibility of sometimes messing up, whatever that means. So I think it's the mindset is very important of like, what do I want to feel in this? And also the soul lesson is like hugely related, because all of these eating challenges are pointing us to something greater. So
Mhm.
by allowing our intention to be one of growth instead of trying to change or control people around us, because triggering situations really make us feel it can even make us feel nauseated, right? Like it can just trigger so much somatically. So that's one part, is the mindset. And then the other is finding a practice that can ground us. Maybe it could be, if to find some consistency when you're in a place where it just feels so inconsistent and like sporadic. Maybe having a I don't know, a chocolate bar or a protein bar or whatever snack that you like, take them with you and just say, this, I'm having it once a day. For me, what really helps me is I have 2 boiled eggs in the morning. I can always find eggs. And if I feel like I need some grounding or some consistency to like not be so dependent on others, I will have my eggs, 2 boiled eggs early in the morning. That can either count as a breakfast or not, but my belly is satisfied and I still have space and flexibility to eat with people without feeling like, oh, I was fasting. And so it's like really understanding the narratives and what usually shows up around these situations.
Mm.
And that can also be seen as kind of the digesting part of it, like just observing what's showing up for me,
Mm.
what parts.
Mm.
And the most important thing in these moments, so whenever you're feeling like the storm is showing up, always remember the eye of the storm. I love this book and just the visual. It's like staying at the center, not rejecting what's going on, staying at the center and looking for the center internally, like constantly honing in, tapping into silence, tapping into stepping away from like the drama of life. That
Mm.
is our spiritual practice, which is reflected by our eating challenges. So just unblending from these parts that feel like they need to control, connecting with ourselves, which are the 9 C's. I really recommend that you watch that episode on internal family systems. I think it can be very helpful. And then somatically grounding whatever we can find, making the intention of feeling some sort of support against the ground, or pushing a wall, that we can feel the interception, we can feel like our bodies, and how doing a plank, anything that's pushing,
Mm.
that is really helpful because it brings us back to our bodies and where we are, orienting ourselves. We can go deeper into any of these practices, but I just kind of want to give like an
Yeah.
overall view of what that situation could look like
And I
in a
think,
supportive way.
right. And the moral of the story is like, when you are in that moment, is to relax and to center yourself the best you can. So it doesn't matter where you are or who you're with, because no matter what, you can do that. You can do what you can to relax, center yourself, and then just observe what's going on. Am I people pleasing? Am I nervously doing something? Am I mindlessly doing something? What's triggering me right now? Is it my friend talking about how she doesn't fit in her pair of jeans anymore? Or my other friend talking about how she's on this awesome diet and she's losing all this weight? Or is it my mom talking about family issues with her brothers and sisters that are causing all this family? What's triggering me right now? What can I do to relax? What can I do to center myself in this moment? And just focusing on that. And then, yeah, I think this is where, the work that you can do with Sarah, where it's utilizing those tools in the moment or afterward with the IFS perspective, with the Enneagram perspective of like, what parts of you are coming up? How can I learn and grow from this situation? What is my body and mind and soul trying to tell me right now? And then I also loved the part you said is like the mindset, just going into the situation of enjoying life. So if your mindset going into a vacation, going into a holiday with family, going out with your girlfriends, if your mindset is just, I'm going to enjoy life tonight. And that means that I'm going to enjoy the food. I'm going to mindfully eat it slowly. What does it feel like? What does it taste like? What does it smell like? Am I enjoying it? Maybe I don't even like what I'm eating right now. Just like pay attention, because I think that a lot of times we just eat and we don't even pay attention to what we're eating. And then enjoy your environment. So like when you're in these like chaotic, whether it's like family holiday or you're out at a loud restaurant, it's like, enjoy the environment you're in, or at least observe the environment you're in. And that's part of that grounding aspect that you were just talking about. And then enjoying the relationships that you have with the people around you, even if sometimes they bother the crap out of you, if it's old friends or family or whatever it is. It's just like, enjoy those relationships you have, because that is life, is enjoying your environment, your food, the people you're with. And I think that's also what allows you to ground, and that's what allows you to relax in the moment, is when you stop focusing on what you should be doing or how can you control the situation. Finding your center is just, I think, finding the little bits of joy in that moment.
Yeah, I love what you're saying, Gabrielle. And also one thing that's coming to me is how we can use food as a way to communicate when we don't know how to like verbally communicate. So it's like our patterns are showing us what we're trying to communicate, especially when it shows up around people that really trigger us. So one thing that's very important is like, so nonviolent communication. This is by Marshall Rosenberg. I have an article on this on the magazine. We can link it, but it's really interesting because of how nonviolent communication can help us with our eating situation, because we can verbalize whatever we do want to communicate. We can step up in the family and be like, look, this is who I am, but in a way that is not, defensive, in a way that's empowering. So also, like when we are sitting at the table, observing that word that you're saying, I feel like it's something very, very profound and very important, because it's not about needing, joy is amazing, but also more than that, we don't need to have the expectation of what joy will look or feel like, but it's like observing what's going on in that table. So again, detaching from the drama that's going on and observe, because when we can get back into the rhythm of the present, honestly, this is a healing process. The healing process is to get back into the moment when it's our ego's biggest fear. But when we can do that and observe in dinner situation, observe ourselves, how we're feeling, how we're reacting with that intention of observing, things just start falling into place. And then we can also communicate the way that we need to communicate, because we feel more grounded and empowered.
And I think that's important to note is that like us talking about this and how important it is to be in the moment in these situations, that's not something that happens overnight. Like the next, if you're feeling like you have a really hard time with being in the moment in these situations, the next time you're in a situation like this, a triggering situation, you're not going to immediately be able to like tap into being connected to your true self. It takes time and repetition, and it takes working on it outside of these situations and working on it in these situations and looking at these triggering situations. I loved Sarah mentioned this earlier as soul lessons. And this is where the third part of it comes into play. That is probably one of the most important parts, is the aftermath of digesting the situation physically and mentally. So that being, and this is a big thing I talk about with clients too, is they come to me, oh, I had such an indulgent weekend. I ate all these things, and I was in Italy, so I tried all the different types of food, or maybe I was just out with my girlfriends and we wanted apps, we wanted the entrees, we wanted the desserts, we wanted the cocktails, we got it all. And I can't believe I feel like this. Being okay with the fact that you spent your weekend that way, or you spent your vacation that way, being okay with that and having grace for yourself and reframing the way you are digesting the weekend or the situation is part of healing, and it's part of getting healthy. So reframing the way we look at these indulgent moments as soul lessons, as Sarah refers to them, and utilizing them as soul lessons. So what was your body, your soul, your mind trying to tell you in those moments? Reframing how what was triggering you, or what thoughts were coming up, utilizing the tools that you have done through the Enneagram, through the IFS model, work on it through sessions with Sarah, have these conversations, because that is part of the healing journey. That's part of becoming your empowered self.
Yeah, totally. And also the good thing about this is that, like, whenever we have a narrative around food, it's kind of like a breadcrumb trail, like Hansel and Gretel, like that's the trail that it's leading to something. Even in IFS, we call them trailheads. It's like they're leading to something. So it's about using this. It's like you go to the gym, you pick up the barbells and you start pumping, right? Muscle. That is the work. It's not like the work isn't in the kind of clothes that we're wearing or being at the gym. The work is feeling that muscle contraction. So this is kind of like our gym, this is our gym. This is how we build the muscle. So by knowing that, staying in the difficult muscle in the difficult moments, that is the training of the muscle. It's the same thing in the difficult moments. That's when we start growing the muscle, right?
You
And
need
so
to
just
be in those
remembering
situations to grow and get stronger.
exactly. So there's soul lessons, there are muscle builders, there are trailheads, there are information, and take it. We need to take it at our own level, right? Here, it's like it's absolutely not about fixating on trying to find an answer about the food because these are just stories. They're just guiding us into something else. And I always believe it's about personal empowerment, and that's how
Mhm.
metabolic empowerment happens. And that's also how we start listening to life, listening to others, and listening to ourselves. It's all going back to the observing part.
Exactly. So I think that if you came to listen to this episode because you feel like you're somebody who struggles and you feel really triggered when you're eating out or when you're over holidays or on vacation, the most important things you can start doing is begin to do that mindset work of what is your mindset throughout the entire week, throughout your routines? Are you doing things for joy, for pleasure throughout your weeks that allow for more balance throughout your whole weeks and years? Doing that vagus nerve work, the somatic work that helps you regulate and balance your nervous system so you don't feel so out of balance in these triggering situations. Really important is stay curious in the moment. Use these as soul lessons. So what thoughts are coming up in the moment? What's triggering you? What is your mind, body, and soul telling you in these moments? Digest it, reflect it, have grace for yourself, utilize your tools, the Enneagram, the IFS, have these conversations with your coaches like Sarah and talk through what came up and what life is telling you in that moment. Where is life asking you to grow in that moment? And how can you take that message and run with it instead of ignoring it?
Yeah.
How can you better connect to yourself?
Yeah, and also what anchor is important for you, because having an anchor is really, really helpful. And that can mean like adding like that bar that I was mentioning, like
Mhm.
something that we can feel like we have our own mini routine,
Mhm.
just something that I'm giving myself. And it can also be a mantra,
Mhm.
remembering like, oh, like it's not about the food. It's really not about as convinced as I am that it's about the food, that I overate, that this person did this, like just remember it's not about the food. So taking that out of the narrative and realize that there's a whole universe of relationships there that can be affecting us. So
Mhm.
it's not about the food. Even if I overeat, it's not about that. I'm a bit stressed, and that's okay, making that okay.
Detach from it. Yeah. And I think the most important thing for you to take from this is know that this isn't something that changes overnight. Like Sarah was saying, it's like going to the gym and lifting the barbells and allowing your muscles to get stronger and stronger. And that's you being in these triggering situations and then reflecting and digesting them time and time again. That is part of the healing journey. And so have patience and have grace for yourself and use every moment that you feel impulsive or out of control or triggered as a moment. How can I learn and grow from this? And then how can I better connect with my true self, bring joy, peace, love to my true self through my day-to-day routines so that you feel more grounded in these triggering
Yeah.
situations.
Yeah, definitely. Because at the end of the day, it's not about, we are not what we eat, we are what we digest. So
Mhm.
let's really just focus on that, doing the introspection, and it's a relationship. Thank you,
Exactly.
everybody, for being part of this episode on Food and Mood Talks, eating from our empowered selves. Gabrielle, was so lovely chatting with you, and all of you eaters. Thank you for watching and listening.
So lovely. See you all next time. We're excited to have more really, really empowering conversations.